Hello and welcome to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Wednesday, December 6th. We are back. We got a 11-game slate. I think it's an interesting one. There are several blowouts and several high-paced, high-scoring games that we should be attacking here. So, now without further ado, let's get into it. But first, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do, all the sports, all the props. You get it all. One low price. Just click that little link right there. Or this one. Best deal ends up only being $20 a month to do it yearly. It is a great deal, and you can come join us and get involved in chat and have some fun. All right. Let's get into this slate a little bit. Like I said, it's 11 games. There are a couple interesting injury spots to go over. And some spots that we still are very unsure of. Jamal Murray's questionable. Aaron Gordon is probable. DeAndre Ayton is doubtful. And so there's definitely some movement here. And then Anthony Simons could be back. He is, I believe, questionable. He has a chance to play. And obviously that shakes things up for the Trailblazers a little bit. Utah has a lot of people out. Clarkson, Markkanen, Olynyk, all out. And Zach LaVine is out for the Bulls. LaMelo obviously still out. Anthony Edwards is questionable. So a lot of different moving parts. At least everything above Anthony Edwards, we will likely know before the slate locks. Big one here. The Heat have Bam Adebayo out. Most of this, the first half of the games, we should know what's going to happen before that. And let's get into it. Position by position, we got Spencer Dinwiddie going as the highest owned, 6,600. I do like him today. I am getting a fair bit of him. He has been playing really well lately. One of the things, though, that does worry me a little bit is I do think he has been playing a little bit better lately and getting a little bit more minutes than what we're going to be generally seeing out of him. So before this last stretch, he was seeing 28, 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden now he's seeing 34, 38. So at 34, 38 minutes, I think he's in a very, very good spot, and I like him. I have him for 34 right now, but my worry is that maybe he goes back to that. I'm not totally sure, but this is a game environment that we really, really like. The 242 total, and it only being a 3.5 spread. Kyrie Irving, 8,100. Look, he has been good pretty much all season with or without Doncic, and I think we can go back to him here. He's a little bit too cheap for the ceiling that he has, especially in a very good matchup versus the Utah Jazz. One reason, though, to consider fading him would be the 11-point spread. Now, I hate kind of betting on a blowout, but when it comes to a guy being probably too high owned, I am a little more willing to do that. Fred VanVleet is another spot that I'm actually very interested in. He's going higher owned, but it's a close game, 226 total. So, right around a majority of the games here, but he's been playing a ton of minutes. And, anytime you have a guy that's getting up to 40 minutes that has the ability to score fantasy points like VanVleet, I think you got to be a little bit interested in it. And I just can't quit it at that many minutes for his price. And we know we've seen him go for 50 plus in the past. So he has a little bit of a ceiling too, which makes me very interested. Some other guys that I like that are lower owned, Terry Rozier. Look, 8,400 is a little bit too much. However, without LaMelo Ball, he does have a ceiling. He went for 64 just a little bit ago, 46 the last game. He's rested. He's versus the Bulls, who aren't that good of a team. And I think, the Hornets are going to be in this game, and he could play a lot of minutes in a game that they could potentially win. So I like that spot for Rozier as he's going fairly low owned. Dennis Schroeder is another spot that I like. So typically I hate playing guys against Miami, but Bam Adebayo is out. Their defensive rating drops, a decent amount without Bam. And so with that, I think it is kind of interesting to attack with Schroeder. He's a guy that has been fairly good. Fantasy per minute, 99 over his last 20 starts, 0.99, so pretty much one. And, versus the Heat, maybe he's a little lower. Maybe he's more 0.9, 0.95. But regardless, I think he's in a good spot when he's going to get a full allotment of minutes. And there's a ceiling. And at 6,300, if you can get a guy that can push 50 points, it's a pretty interesting spot. That's one of the things with NBA that I feel like a lot of the field discounts is the chance for a ceiling. And it is so important in NBA to get a little bit of a ceiling. Now let's move over to DK. So highest owned here, we got Anthony Simons, Luka Doncic, and Donovan Mitchell. I like them all. I can't say a bad thing about any of them. The one thing with Luka is he's expensive, and, it's a huge 11-point favorites that they are. And what he has done versus Utah isn't that special. It is different. Obviously, okay, getting 60 plus, but at 11.7K, I would like a little bit more. I think he really needs to score 70 plus at this price, and I just don't know if I see it in this matchup in a game that he very easily could play only 3/4 or, 90% of his full minutes. We really probably need to see him get all of his minutes. Donovan Mitchell, he is fine. The spot's okay. It is a pace-up spot for him, which is good. I just don't love it when Garland is with him. He just doesn't have the ceiling that he does with Garland being out, and that worries me a little bit. And into the matchup spot in the point guard, Jamal Murray has a smash lineup, or smash matchup. But does he play, and does he play all of his minutes? Something for you to kind of work out in your head and figure out if you want to play him or not. But he is in a very good matchup. Mike Conley, in a very good matchup. But another issue with him is minutes. Been right around that 28 to 30 all season. And he is in a very good game environment. But we really need him to get over that 30-point or 30-minute area to pay off his kind of lofty salary. Fred VanVleet, I'm all in on him today. I do really like him. Do not mind his ownership. Schroeder is up here, somebody that I liked. Portland situation with Brogdon and Simons is an interesting one. It's a decent spot. I do like going to this spot, but we're going to have to wait for some more information there. I think it is a little bit interesting going with either of those guys. All right, now shooting guard. All right, highest owned Dinwiddie, Bane, and Irving. All three of them I like. We have talked about two. We have not talked about Desmond Bane. But look, simply this guy has been crushing all season long. He's, right around 40 points game in and game out. Has that ceiling of 60 and 70. He's in a good matchup. It is a pace-up spot. He's going to be getting his full allotment of minutes. So I think it's a very interesting spot to go to Desmond Bane. I wish he was a little lower owned, but going there makes a lot of sense. Anytime you have a guy that's at 8.2K and projected for 44 and it has a ceiling of 60-ish, I think it's a real good spot to go to regardless of ownership. Bogdan is a lower owned piece that I'm interested in. It's a game we really like. He does excel in some of these higher paced games. The one issue I have with him is his ceiling aspect. He he needs to fall into some more minutes because he's playing really well. He has been playing around 28, 32 minutes. And that is enough to get what we need out of him in a good game environment like this. One thing is, it is a down pace spot. The Nets are a little bit better defensively, but the Hawks are going to have to score and going to have to score a lot. So I do think it's an interesting spot, but I would just say don't go overboard with it. Anthony Edwards, we're not sure if he's going to play. He has missed 2 games. He is trending towards playing. So I think I got to be interested with a 230 game total. He's had, quite a lot of time to rest now. They haven't played for 4 days, and he had 2 games off. So even though, he's a little banged up with his hip, his legs are rested, and I wouldn't be that surprised if we saw him really go off in this game. And once again, though, there is a little bit of an issue as the fact that it is a 12-point total. Now, in these games that have these big totals, I do think it's an interesting way to attack them is to do little game stacks and just hope that game stays a little closer later into the game. Because if it does, somebody on the Spurs is probably going off. In the Dallas situation, somebody on the Jazz have to keep up with Dallas in their scoring. So that's one way I'd be attacking those blowouts, is do mini game stacks to get a little added correlation if that game stays close. Some other guys, we talked about Terry Rozier, Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas, I actually think, is a super interesting play and going overlooked right now. We know he has a ceiling. His issue is that to get to that ceiling, he's got to be scoring the ball, and a high-paced, high-scoring game is the spot that he can really excel. So I think Cam Thomas is an interesting low-owned piece. Now, to DraftKings, we got Bojan Bogdanovic, Anthony Simons, and Bilal Coulibaly going as the higher-owned pieces. Desmond Bane is there, too. Bojan, look, 5,100 is too cheap for him. He played 27 minutes. I think he could get 28, maybe 29 as they work him back from injury. I don't mind going there. It's a good spot versus the versus Memphis, and we know he can produce right around a fantasy point per minute, so I don't mind it. You just need him to be shooting the ball a little bit, and 6x is, very much within the possibility. My issue with it is 8x might be hard for him to get there. Anthony Simons, I do like Simons, and I was getting a decent amount of him on my first run of lineups. One of the things that worries me is he is coming back from his injury. We're not sure how many minutes he's going to get. I put him at 28. If he is over 28, then I think he's a super interesting play, and he very well could be. If news comes out that he's almost fully stretched out, where he might get 30, 32 minutes, then I think he's in a very, very good spot. But I would say pay attention to some news and try and see what's going on. Bilal, look, he's a player that I do really like. His salary has come down significantly. He is a value piece that I think you can play, especially if Jordan Poole is out. Jordan Poole is currently questionable. And getting over to the matchups on shooting guard, we got Brandon Miller. Glad he's at the very top. He is a guy I wanted to talk about. LaMelo Ball is out. Without LaMelo Ball, he's been averaging like 0.95 fantasy points per minute. He's getting a lot of minutes lately. 36 last game, 36, 33. So I think if he is starting, which I would expect him to, you can count on 34 to 36 minutes in a matchup that he can do something in. If he is shooting the ball well, he could get up to 40 fantasy points for sure at 5,700. And it makes it pretty interesting to me, especially when not too many people are going there. This is a guy that is right around 30 points most game, 30 fantasy points. And we know he is a good shooter. If he gets hot, He's able to add some other stats, a couple steals or blocks or something. He does have a little bit of a ceiling for his price. So I am interested in him. We just, need to see if he's playing and, go from there, see his ownership when it all shakes out. Melton is fine in this spot versus the Wizard. It's just they're huge favorites and a little harder for me to want to pay Melton's salary when, Embiid and Maxey likely have their way in this matchup. Mitchell, high on the matchup board, interesting as well. And now let's check the small forward. So we got Bane, Jabari Walker, and Jimmy Butler. I like all those. Walker is expected to get some additional minutes due to the fact that DeAndre Ayton is out. And look, if he gets extra minutes, I think you got to like him. At 4,300, he has a decent ceiling if he is allowed to play 28 plus minutes. At 24 minutes, I think he's still in consideration. But it's really, how many minutes is he going to get? And that is the big question here. We have him at 26 minutes right now. If he's getting 26 plus, he's probably going to look real good and be pretty high owned. But I wouldn't be shying away. Jimmy B. All right. The Emo Butler, I think you absolutely have to consider here. There's no Bam Adebayo. He is just a lot better without Bam there. He's asked to do more, and I think he gets a little bit more engaged because winning or losing is on him. Their defense gets a little bit worse, so he also has to do a little more offensively. Now, the issue with him is it is a regular season game. He could easily just not try that hard because they're smashing Toronto, with Toronto not being a very good game. So I think he's interesting. It does project to be a closer game. But I can see you going either way. If Jimmy Butler gets super chalk at 8,600, I don't mind fading him, but I think he's interesting. DeMar DeRozan, there's no Zach LaVine. I think you got to be interested in him. He's getting to that 40-point spot pretty regularly lately. And no LaVine. So I think without LaVine and him getting that additional little boost, he is interesting at 7,700, and I don't mind going there. I think small forward and power forward is just kind of chalky today. There's a lot of guys there, but at least it's spreading the ownership out a little bit and, making it where all of them are kind of viable. Kuzma is fine if the Wizards are able to keep up with the 76ers at all. It's likely because of Kuzma. So I think you could consider him, especially if you want to just do a mini correlation with that game. It is a 240 total. You totally could. Bogdan, we went over. Anthony Edwards. Caleb Martin. He should get a little boost without Bam in there. If he is in the starting lineup, then he's very, very interesting. He played 35 minutes off the bench last time, so I think he should be getting close to getting back into that starting lineup, especially without Bam there. Brandon Miller we talked about. Cam Thomas we talked about. Let's get over to DraftKings. So we got Bilal, Bane, and DeRozan. Talked about all three of them, so we will just head to the matchups. And DeAndre Hunter, Gordon Hayward, and Kamara are all on the top. Look, I don't really have a problem with any of them. I think you can play them. They're all going to save you a little bit of money. Kamara is a little interesting due to the fact that Ayton is out. Maybe he's able to get a few more rebounds, but he's just a guy that doesn't do much. Gets minutes, but hasn't done much with them all season. 4,500. He doesn't even have a single game of 30 points. So I think it's kind of hard to go there. And Jimmy B is towards the top here. Scotty Barnes, I was getting to a little bit too. And, it's a decent matchup for him. 19th versus small forward. And then you add in the fact that there's no Bam and that should go up a little bit higher there without Bam. So let's go over to power forward on FanDuel. Butler, Kuzma, Allen, the three highest owned, with Jarrett Allen 6,900. He's obviously playing more of a center position here, but him and Mobley are kind of interchangeable at that spot a little bit. Orlando's a good rebounding team, so I don't love attacking this spot with Allen. But at his price, I don't hate it. We know he has a ceiling. He just hasn't really shown it this year, and that's my worry. Barnes, we just talked about. Don't mind going there with Miami's D being not quite as good. Wemby. Got to go to Wemby. 230 total. Look, Wemby has been excellent, and we're seeing, games that we see from Jokic and Doncic and Giannis, when he's able to get to mid 60s somewhat regularly, or even, high 50s somewhat regularly, I think you got to consider it at 9K. And he's going to play in this game. He's off the injury report. It's a 230 total. I think there's a lot to like in this spot for Wemby. Siakam I like quite a bit without Bam on the other side. I think it does make a little bit better of a game for him, and he's done pretty well versus the Heat in the past. So I think he is in an interesting spot here. High owned for DraftKings, we got Jabari Walker, Danilo Gallinari, and DeRozan. So Gallinari, 3,800. I get it. He's been, in the mid 20s. I just don't think he has much of a ceiling. This 30-point game from him is not likely going to happen again this season at his, 18, 20 minutes a game. However, that possibility is there. I don't hate the play. My issue is how often is he going to get 28 plus fantasy points? And we really do kind of need that on 11 game slate out of the value. So for that reason, I'm kind of out. Tomorrow we talked about, and power forward matchups. Cam Johnson, I'm definitely intrigued. All in all, that game intrigues me. So I like to get pieces of that game environment, especially if they're coming in lower owned, and Cam Johnson is a little lower owned. Grant Williams, with everybody there, he's not very enticing. He just doesn't have much of a ceiling. Patrick Williams, slight bump up without Levine on the floor in a good matchup. Don't mind going there a little bit. Jaren Jackson, huge ceiling, good matchup, makes sense to go there as well. And lastly, let's get to the center position. Orlando Robinson, clear-cut best value on the slate right now. It is expected that he will start and probably play 28, 29 minutes. And when he's averaging almost a fantasy point per minute, I think you immediately have to consider him. So when he's getting, 26, 28 minutes and in that 26 to 35 point range, he's a pretty safe bet for your lineup with some ceiling. So makes all the sense to go there. Jared Allen, meh. Draymond Green, meh. I don't mind it, just don't hate it. Some other centers I like, obviously Victor. Here's another value piece that I want to bring up was Dupree. So one of the issues, another value piece I'm interested in is Dupree. So DeAndre Ayton's out. He started one game. He only played 20 minutes. He's, been around that 15 to 20 minute range all season. 0.8 fantasy points per minute in his starts. He's only had one start, but all in all, he's more like a 0.9, 0.95 fantasy per minute guy so far this season. If he starts, which we're not really sure what they're going to do, then Reith is interesting. He's getting no ownership. He's only 4,000. If he gets, 28 plus minutes, he absolutely could reach that 30 point range And it's definitely in consideration when nobody's going there right now. Now, that very much could change once DeAndre Ayton is out. Maybe Portland says he's starting and everybody goes there. But at this point, with nobody going there, I think he's very, very interesting. And I think that is actually all I liked. Oh, Nick Claxton is another one. Once again, attacking this 242 total game. Think it's an interesting one. Nobody is going there. Major leverage with our projection being on him pretty solid. But he's a guy that has a super strong ceiling. 50 points versus Atlanta last time. 22, 11, 3 blocks, 3 assists, a steal. You know, he's a guy that can get those steals and blocks, can really hit the boards. I think he's very interesting, and I'm definitely going to have some of him and going to try and force a little bit more of him into my lineup because he's a way to get this to that game at very low ownership, which I find very intriguing. So now on to DraftKings center spot. Dupe Reith, super high owned on DraftKings. 3,200 makes all the sense. You know, he's pretty much a lock for at least 20 minutes tonight. And at 3,200, he could pay that off. The issue is, can he get to 28 plus fantasy points-ish? Which he really needs to be optimal. And in only 20 minutes, maybe not. If he gets 24 plus, then he absolutely can. Danilo, meh. Joel Embiid, it is a great spot for Joel Embiid. He should crush the Wizards. He did earlier this season, dropping 48 real points on them and 76 total. He's crushed them a couple times. I think you can absolutely consider Embiid. The one thing I would say here, back to the mini correlation, is I wouldn't mind adding some Washington piece in there if you're going with Embiid. They got to be able to keep up for him to really hit, you know, some of those ceiling type numbers that we know he can hit. And off to the matchups. All right, so Sengun, I think we got to consider here. The guy is hitting mid-50s consistently. He's 9K. That's almost 6X, you know, or right around 6X is what he's been averaging recently. So I think you got to like that. If he can hit 60 plus, he's going to crush this slate, and I like the spot for him. Holmgren, same thing. Look, these two are on the top of the matchup tool in a very similar environment. One thing I will say is I would like to not play the two of them together. The reason being is there's only one ball. There's only one person that can get a rebound, and with both of them vying for the same rebounds and so much of their points being involved in that, I don't love having them together in my lineup. Biombo, issue with him is Tillman's back. Minutes might not be there. Gafford is fine. Just wouldn't want Embiid in the same lineup. Bizadays, he can produce. He just needs to get 24 plus minutes, and he rarely gets it. I don't hate going there. I think you can. I just don't love the spot. Zubac might get an extra couple minutes because of Jokic on the other side. He did get 32 minutes last time they played, 26 the time before that, but did run into some foul trouble. So there is a real path to Zubac doing well just because he's getting extra minutes. It's a guy that usually plays 28 or 27, 26 to 28. And if he's getting, 30 plus, he's very viable at these prices. And that will do it for us today, guys. All right. You all have a good one. Good luck today. And I will be back on Friday. We have another small slate tomorrow due to that in-season tournament. But I will be back Friday with our 11-gamer then. Have a good one, guys. Good luck. Let's make some money. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Bye.